Man, is this story from Politico something else. This is something else. This is so brazen and blatant and grotesque and transparent that I struggle to come up with sufficient words to condemn this and make fun of this. So this is about the mayor race in New York City. Look at this. Yang under fire after laughing at question about choking women. What? Andrew Yang faced an onslaught of criticism Thursday after video circulated of the leading mayoral candidate laughing when asked if he choked bitches. In the video, someone asked the mayoral frontrunner whether a man, while he's fucking bitches, can keep his Timbs on, a reference to Timberland boots. I like how they explain that. Yang said, "I think it's purely up to your partner." The man continued by asking Yang whether he choked bitches, to which Yang laughed and backed away, appearing to gesture with his hand that the conversation was over. Quote, "I think most New Yorkers know that I try to be friendly to people, and in this case someone wanted a video and I thought it'd be friendly," Yang told reporters Thursday when asked about the clip. But then he asked something that was plainly inappropriate that I didn't find funny at all, so I walked away and ended the interaction as quickly as possible. You know, obviously I don't think that's appropriate. Okay, so let me give you some more here. They go on to say, but Yang's engagement with the question after he used the word bitches and his laughter at the suggestion of violence against women drew comparisons from rival campaigns and critics to former President Donald Trump and Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is facing a litany of sexual harassment accusations from former and current staffers. Quote, "We have seen 4 years of a president who joked about sexually assaulting women and still got elected," said fellow mayoral candidate Maya Wiley during an emotional Zoom press conference Thursday held with supporters and survivors to condemn Yang's participation in the video. Quote, "We should be called to lead for a moral leadership that says exactly how we have to stand up for each other, and that means every last one of us has to stand up for women and girls because we count." Wiley's remarks were echoed by supporters and survivor advocates on the Zoom conference. Quote, "He isn't winning the hearts and minds of women here in New York City by laughing at misogynistic jokes," said Sonia Osorio, president of Now New York. And then they go on to quote different, organizations that exist to protect abused women and different feminist groups, and every single one of them finger wagging at Andrew Yang. "Mr. Yang, how dare you? How could you? You've broken our hearts, sir." Listen, when you read this, it's astonishing to recognize how terrible the propaganda is and how low level the propaganda is when they're trying to take somebody down. Anybody who's even minimally objective who reads this is going, oh, they don't like Andrew Yang and they're just trying to take him down by any means necessary. Now, again, I don't care what your personal opinion is on Andrew Yang. You might dislike him and you might dislike him for policy reasons. Whatever, that's your prerogative. That's totally fine and that's fair. And, it is what it is. So this isn't really a defense of Yang as much as it's a transparent and obvious view into how the press operates when they don't like somebody. Because when you, even by their own accounting, the interaction that Yang had with the guy, he didn't know what to say, he didn't know what to do, he was clearly uncomfortable, and he handled it in as effective a way as humanly possible. I mean, what is he supposed to do? What is he supposed to do in this situation? The guy wanted a picture or video. He asked him if he chokes bitches. He's like, whoa, what? He says, "Can you fuck a bitches with your Timbs on?" He's like, "I guess that's up to your partner." And, when the guy keeps pushing and keeps saying things that are making Andrew uncomfortable, he basically hand waves him away. He awkwardly, nervously laughs, as in this is weird, and hand waves him away. And they're making a thing out of it. They're trying to make, Andrew did something wrong. What did he do wrong? What was he supposed to do? Go drag a soapbox next to him, stand on it, and say, "Good sir, let me tell you about how I value women and girls, and I don't think you value women and girls, yes?" Is that what he's supposed to do? What do you want him to do? And the answer is this. It literally didn't matter what he was supposed to do. It didn't matter. Whatever he did, they were going to attack him. Even if he did say, excuse me, I think that's inappropriate, and I'm a big defender of women and girls. You know what they'd say? They'd say, oh, good for him saying that. However, look at the kind of people that Andrew Yang's campaign attracts. The kind of people who would ask him such, gross things and defamatory things in the first place. The type of people who would smear and besmirch women and girls in the first place. That's what they would do. It is crystal clear when you read this article. They were looking for something, anything, to try to take him down. And by the way, you know why this is, right? This is just like the article that accused him of being anti-Asian. Probably written by some non-Asian, and Andrew is Asian. They're doing this because he's up massively in the polls. And the new round of polls has him up even more than he was before. And I saw another one right before I came on air. Factoring in ranked choice voting, it would come down to him and Scott Stringer, and he would beat Scott Stringer. So this is why they're doing it. They don't like him. Now, again, you might not like him for some policy reason, but that would be a fair criticism. And one thing I've noticed about Yang's people is that every time I've criticized him and it's policy-oriented and it's fair, they say, yeah, fair point. You understand what I'm saying? So, but this is just disgusting, grotesque smear job. I mean, but here's a good point that Crystal Ball made to me about this. There's an argument, is Andrew Yang leading despite the media trying to take him down or because the media is trying to take him down? Because we're at that point, we're at that level. Because the media has become just so clearly elitist and detached from the concerns of regular people. And there might, the same level of hatred that Republicans have of the media, according to the polls, we might be at the point where certain factions and segments of the progressive left feel that same disdain towards the media. I know I do, but polls have showed historically that Democrats are largely way more trusting of the media than Republicans. But at least with this example, this might be a tipping point where finally people on the left might be starting to wake up to the fact that even media outlets that you nominally may have liked, a lot of what they do is protect corporate Democrats. They're just doing rah-rah team Democrat and protecting the most conservative Democrats. And they'll smear anybody to their left. And there's a great example of it right here. So if that's the case, and I sort of hope it is the case that he's leading because the media is smearing him and there's a backlash to that, then we've hit, we really have hit a tipping point. They just do an establishment protection racket. So they are comparing him to Trump because Trump was accused of sexual assault and Trump was called a misogynist and a sexist. So they're saying, oh, this is a lot like Trump. This interaction proves he's a lot like Trump. What are you talking? What? Or the comparison to Andrew Cuomo, which is also ridiculous because Andrew Cuomo was accused of, harassment, touching, inappropriate stuff. There's zero accusations against Andrew Yang of any physical wrongdoing, any sexual assault, sexual harassment, anything of that nature. There's nothing on that at all, not even a little bit. But they're conflating, they don't care. They want to take him down, so it's anything goes. Do you understand? Do you see through this? It'd be hard to not see through this at this point. Again, even by their own accounting of what happened here, they're like, oh, he awkwardly laughed and hand waved him away. Yeah, because he was uncomfortable with it. And by the way, even if he wasn't uncomfortable with it, it would be because he knows the guy's trolling. And he's an adult, and adults deal with trolling in an adult way. They don't, launch into some sort of monologue or soliloquy about how I'm the protector of women and girls, gets her, yes. And also, by the way, I don't to get to the core of what's being said here, this guy's joking, this guy's trolling, whatever you might like it, dislike it, I don't care, it doesn't matter. He's not implying that it's non-consensual, right? Oh, do you like to fuck bitches with your Timbs on? Do you like choking bitches? He's not saying are you doing some sort of act of assault on a woman during a sex act? It's the implication is if they are for it and you partake in it, do you do it? That's the implication. That's how any normal human being would read this. Anybody who's even vaguely, slightly familiar with internet culture and trolls. Like, that's how you read. It's not like, he's not asking, Mr. Yang, do you assault women sexually? Of course he's not asking that. Of course he's not asking that. Unless he was sent by one of the other campaigns on purpose to put Andrew Yang in this position so they could try to take him down using this. For the love of God, make some decent arguments. You want to hold Andrew Yang accountable? Okay, go look at what Crystal and I did on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. Shameless plug here, but keep it real. It was a great interview, and this was a great part of the interview where we held him accountable for his terrible comments on BDS. That's how you hold him accountable. And if you watch the entire interview, or you listen to the entire interview, you'll see there's a number of areas where I question him and where I prod him, where I've disagreed with him in the past, whether it's sunsetting government regulations, which is something he said on the campaign trail, or whether it's Medicare for all, which he had some terrible comments on it when he was on the campaign trail running for president. I pressured him on that. I pushed him on that, and you could determine whether or not you agree with or disagree with his answer. If you're policy focused, people will respect that. Even his own people respect that. But they're not. They're just trying to take him down using sleazy, underhanded tricks. That's what this is. This is, again, weaponizing identity to protect the establishment. That's what this is. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what identity politics has become. You have corporate Democrats, right-wing Democrats. They know they're not out-lefting the left on economic stuff and foreign policy stuff and domestic stuff. So I got to find a way to out-left them. How do I out-left them? I know. I'll lean into identitarianism as hard as possible and accuse them of being racist or bigoted or whatever. And here we are. So now they're doing an underhanded smear of an Asian American candidate, effectively accusing him of sexism or worse, some sort of sexual assault with the conflation with Trump and Andrew Cuomo. This misogynistic comment that he didn't push back on. He was clearly uncomfortable. He clearly didn't like it. And even if he wasn't uncomfortable, I wouldn't care because it says nothing about him at all in a negative way. This shows you, no matter what, if they don't like you, they're going to go for the jugular. No matter what, if they don't like you, they're going to go for the jugular. And it's just, the reason this one got to me so much is that I don't know if I've ever seen a more transparent example of the media having no principles, just playing favorites, and attacking somebody simply because they don't like them. The only thing I could promise you is that I have integrity and I'm telling you the truth as I see it. That's all I could promise you. But that's enough. That's a lot, because you look at the rest of the media landscape and you can see right through it. And you could see how this is nonsense, pointless, virtue signaling and smearing to try to take down the candidate leading, probably because they don't like the fact that he's in favor of universal basic income and he's an outsider. That's enough to get the establishment to hate you. You're in favor of universal basic income. They view that on par with New Deal programs really shifting the balance of power. They don't like that, and they don't like that he's an outsider and didn't come up from within the party and didn't climb the ladder and get the pats on the heads from current leadership. They don't like that at all. And this is what they do. So now you know. It's beyond disgusting, and you can't help but kind of feel bad for Andrew, because this is the stuff he's got to put up with. But I do think that to this point, they've handled the unfair criticisms well, where usually they just sort of don't respond, or if they respond, they say very little, and then the criticism goes away, because everybody knows this is ridiculous deep down. That's how they got to handle it. Keep focusing on the issues, and he'll probably end up pulling it off. But there's a lesson here about the media, and the lesson has never been more clear.